If you ever visit watch repair forums, everybody's talking about Epilame and why you should use it. In this video, I'm going to give you 6 reasons why you might not want to use it, but if you still want to use it, I'm going to show you how I apply it and even a way to save you money. Let's get started. So what is Epilame or Fix-A-Drop? Well, basically, it's a surface treatment coating that you apply to certain parts on a watch that will repel lubrication. And what it really does is, if you have an area on the part that does not have the Epilame, it prevents the lubrication from spreading away from that point. And just for full disclosure, I use Epilame when I service movements every time. But that's because people expect me to use it. And one of the advantages of using Epilame is that it should extend the service life by keeping the lubrication where it needs to be for a longer period of time. So that brings up the question, why wouldn't you want to use it? If you haven't perfected your parts cleaning system so that everything is dirt-free and free of all residue, applying Epilame to parts could be detrimental, because what you don't want is you don't want the Epilame coating making dirt and grit stick to the parts or sealing a residue or leftover grease and oil under the Epilame. So the first thing you want to make sure of is that your cleaning game is on point. If your lubrication methods are not as good as they should be, you should not be using Epilame. Some people believe that by using it, if they over lubricate, it will keep the lubrication confined in a certain area. Over lubrication is over lubrication. So Epilame or Fix-A-Drop is not going to fix that problem. The main area that you would use it is going to be on the pallet forks and the escape wheel teeth. So you need to be able to apply just the right amount of lubrication to the pallet stones for it to be effective. If you're applying too much lubrication to the pallet stones, Epilame's not going to help. If you're over lubricating your end stones or any other jewels in the movement, having Epilame on the pallet stones and escape wheel is not going to improve all those other things. So before you start using Epilame, you want to make sure that your lubrication is also on point. If you can't adjust the escapement and regulate the watch so that you have a low delta, having Epilame on certain parts isn't going to help that get any better. If you're investing $250 to $300 in getting set up to use Epilame and you don't have a crystal press to insert watch crystals without breaking 2 or 3 before you're successful in installing one, then you probably shouldn't be thinking about using Epilame either. If you don't have the ability to replace cracked and broken jewels, then you probably don't need to invest in getting set up for Epilame, because it is way more important to be able to fix these so that your movement runs better and that you can actually do watch adjusting and regulation. If you don't have a staking set yet, you probably don't need to think about using Epilame. Staking sets are one of the most important tools that a watchmaker can have. And if you don't have the ability to make corrections in the barrel and all the other things that a staking set can do, then Epilame should be pretty low on the list of things that you need to do. I mean, basically what it comes down to is Epilame is useful if you want to extend the service life of the service you just did on a watch. But if you can't clean the watch, lubricate the watch, adjust and regulate the watch, and do some basic repairs first, any advantage that Epilame may provide is lost. So for the most part, using Epilame is pretty straightforward. All you need is the Epilame and an Epilame bottle. Now to treat the escape wheel, you merely open the bottle, drop the escape wheel in, close the lid tight, and then flip it upside down for 1 minute. Now once you remove the escape wheel, it's very important that you immediately put it in a dryer that's running above room temperature, so no condensation forms on the metal before the Epilame dries. If you just dry it at room temperature, because of the volatility of the solvents, Condensation can form on the metal, getting trapped under the epilame or fix-a-drop, causing the metal part to rust, completely defeating one of the reasons of using epilame in the first place. Now, when treating the pallet fork with epilame, the only part of the pallet fork that you want to treat are the actual stones themselves. You may hear some people talk about dropping the pallet fork in with the escape wheel into the same bottle and treating them at the same time. But the only approved method in the industry, recommended by watch manufacturers and watchmaking schools, is to treat the pallet stones only. One of the main reasons is because of the constant impact inside the pallet fork slot that could cause the epilame to start turning into a powder, which is basically like a grinding paste inside the fork slot. This will cause accelerated wear inside the pallet fork slot, which will lower the amplitude greatly. Now, to treat the jewels, I just use a syringe filled with epilame. I just press it enough so a tiny drop of epilame comes out on the end of the syringe, and then I merely just dip my jewels into the epilame one at a time, and then immediately take it to the dryer. And that's really all there is to it. Now, once the parts are dry, you can go ahead and assemble the powertrain, install the pallet fork in the balance wheel, and then just let it run for about 10 or 15 minutes or so. By letting it run for at least 15 minutes, what that will do is it'll wear off the coating off the edge of the escape wheel tooth, and it'll wear off a stripe down the impulse face of the pallet stone. Usually what I do is I will put the balance wheel in and let it run while I work on the dial side of the movement. Then I'll come back, lubricate the pallet fork, and then install the balance wheel back in, and then lubricate the end stones. And that's really all there is to it. One of the things that's crazy about epilame is these little jars can run anywhere from $75 to $100. And since you really don't need them for the pallet stones, let me show you how to save a little bit of money when you treat the escape wheel. All you really have to do is make sure that the escape wheel tooth is perfectly clean, and then using a thin piece of wire, drop the escape wheel on the wire, and then just dunk it in the bottle of epilame or fix-a-drop or whatever you're using. Now, because it evaporates so fast, make sure that you cover the top up with your thumb. But after it soaks for about a minute, then you can take it out and then dry it under heat just like anything else. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Well, guys, that's it for this video. If you have any tips or tricks on how to use epilame, please drop them in the comments. And as always, because there's so much more to learn, I'll see you in the next video.